Obviously, I've known you, or at least seen you on LinkedIn over the last couple of months, and I've watched you and your agency grow, and it's been wonderful to see. And I feel like your agency and our agency have been kind of on the same path in the sense that we're focused on helping people get sales, and we're very much lovers of automation and AI, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think also what's where I feel like we're pretty similar is that I think where maybe other lead gen agencies don't go to the depths that we do is around like testing out all these new AI tools that are out there and so on and so on. So before we get into the AI side of things, it would be great to hear like a little bit of a background about you in terms of like how you got here, like what has the entrepreneurial journey been like for you?
Oh, that's a big question. So I think it started, I would say, something around 7-8 years ago, just right after finishing university. I just had a bachelor degree, and I was just thinking about, I wanted to do a master degree, but in a top university. And so I just took a break. I studied like the GMAT test, because it's the kind of test where they kind of assess your ability to be able to perform at top universities. And anyways, as I did this test, what I wanted to do is I wanted to do some master in finance, because my goal from a very young age always had been to make a lot of money. And so the way I did that is I would just search Google, looking at the top paid jobs. And I think I saw at some point that investment bankers were getting six figures. You had something similar happening to you?
Yeah. Funny enough, in university, when I was applying for internships, all the ones I was applying for was just finance, like investment banking, until like I actually did like deeper dive and I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Was it the same for you?
It's exactly the same. Because what I did is, as I was studying, you know, like they ask a lot of stuff. So they want they want to see some extracurricular activities and stuff like this. I ended up being the president of the finance club of my university. And so for this, I had to, you know, do some activities. And I went to Rothschild. I brought like 2 bankers, you know, I just was in front of these 2 bankers. And I was like, guys, I have to throw some events. So you just come and just talk about, you know, whatever is interesting to the students of the finance club. And so anyways, those guys, they were great. But then as I started talking, I think 15 minutes in, I just realized I didn't care.
At least you're honest.
It's difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the issue though, is that with investment banking, finance in general, you're expected to be doing long hours. So I was just thinking, I want to do a career in this field, but I'm not able to listen to these guys for 15 minutes. And they were like, everybody said after the presentation that the presentation was great. So if this was great, imagine if I'm doing something boring related to finance. So anyways, I just figured I had to stop this. And I was gonna have to learn something different if I wanted to, you know, pursue a field I would be interested in, which led me to take a coding bootcamp in London. And so I learned how to code websites, which was super interesting for me because, you know, after 3 years of university, I didn't feel like I learned that much. And my university in Belgium was, you know, seen as the top university, and I was a very good student. And so I thought it's crazy because I started this coding bootcamp 3 weeks in. I had learned so many more things than 3 years of university. And I just thought about how, because now I knew how to code, any business idea or any idea I had could just become something. It could be like from my, you know, could come from my mind, could become a reality. And so I think like to this day, I just thought I never want to be studying anymore for some degree or some diploma that I will be able to showcase to some employer. It's like if I'm learning something, it needs to be some skill I can leverage, which brings me to having tried a lot of different businesses. And so after a lot of businesses, I did like some prize competition website, you know, some lottery. I launched a clothing brand. I think I launched a Facebook ads agency. What else? I launched some affiliates bet website, you know, for betting. So anyways, like none of these ideas actually hit. But as I launched my Facebook ads agency, I started sending some cold emails to people. because I wanted to book meetings, right, to sell the Facebook ads. And so what happened is that I was booking a lot of meetings. I think this was probably 5 years ago now. And so I just thought, actually, this mechanism that's allowing me to book meetings is way more powerful than the thing I'm sending, which led me to think, let's make the switch and let's do some cold email instead of doing some Facebook ads. So yeah, so back in the days, I had a few clients. I just realized quickly that I hated serving clients for cold email. So I just thought I need to find another way to monetize this whole thing, which means that I started just putting out some resources. I knew how to do it, but I didn't want to do it for people. So I just thought if I just put out a lot of resources, somehow I will be able to monetize it.
Yeah, but build an audience.
Yeah, build an audience, right? And one of these segment of resources were tools. And one thing I realized is tools is actually way easier to monetize because for one, like everybody loves tools for some reason. But second, you can have affiliate programs with every tool you're promoting, and so you get 20% recurring commissions for each tool you're promoting.
And that was taking you back to when you'd actually been doing the affiliate stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. It just goes round and round.
Yeah.
And so I had this, and this was a side project. I would be working at companies, doing some growth marketing roles as I had this website. And one day I woke up to a notification, and I think some guy just used my link and bought an Apollo.io plan for $3K. So you get 20%. So I would just wake up to $600. Yeah. So I was like, there is something to be done here.
Yeah.
I doubled down on the thing, and then some people started approaching me, but they said, hey, by the way, since you have all these tools, I was thinking maybe you can help me with the actual outbound.
Yeah.
So I started doing a few projects, and I just thought, you know what, I think this is actually the easiest way to monetize whatever comes close to sales prospecting. And since then, we've been scaling the agency to now around 20 clients. And so this is, at this time, the biggest source of revenue for the business. But we also have some advisory deals with some companies. Plus, we make some money with affiliate commissions because we've been promoting a lot of tools, specifically the ones we love.
Yeah. And just to rewind a second, it's getting weird now because, after university, I actually started a agency specifically making websites as well. Like I didn't almost at the T, I kind of left the idea of investment banking behind. And I'd been making websites since I was maybe 15 or 16. Yeah. But then, as you say, it becomes such a good pathway into any business because every business uses a website. And if you can make that to promote any business idea you have, it's such a useful skill. What would be interesting to know is how did you meet your co-founder? And for anyone else that's looking to find a co-founder, what would be some good advice to give?
Yeah, this one, unfortunately, I will not be able to help people because I was blessed. I was lucky to know Alex from a long time.
Yeah.
And I think around 5 years ago, we traveled together because we were already friends before, actually. And so we were traveling together in South America. We were in Colombia, Brazil, Argentina together, and we would always be talking about business. And so anyways, Alex was living in Berlin, I was living in Barcelona, but despite the fact that we would be living in different places, we would still be talking to each other. And somewhere around last year, he talked about the fact that he wanted to leave his job, and at the same time, I had started the agency, and it was starting to pop off. So I think I had 4 to 5 clients at the time. And obviously, when you go from having a job to having an agency with 5 clients, you're actually making, say, 5 times more what you were supposed to be making at a normal job, right? So the thing, though, is that the agency was becoming more successful from what I could take on. And at the same time, he wanted to actually start learning some outbound because he had some ideas about AI and stuff. So I just figured if you want, maybe you can help me. And then based on that, you will be able to launch your projects. But once he started working with me, I just thought, this guy is so good. There's no way I let him work on something else. And so and so he came on, and since he came, I think like we multiplied the business by 5. Like even like his LinkedIn growth has been crazy.
Yeah,
I think
I've
he
been
started
seeing
after
it.
me.
Very, very good.
Yeah, and like the guy is a beast.
Yeah.
So this, to your question, this is what's difficult is, I would say you need to be lucky to have very smart friends among your friends group. Otherwise, I have no idea, because I'm always thinking about, say I didn't know him from before.
Yeah.
I have no idea I would have found someone to be, funding the business with me.
Yeah. And with regards, just for people who are listening or watching, would you mind like going into the depths of like what is Outbound, like, and also like how does it work from like the way that you work with your clients, from like the first touch point you have with them to actually delivering what it is that you're selling?
Yeah. Well, the whole idea of Outbound is basically just sending a message to someone who don't know. So it's just reaching out cold to people, whether it's via LinkedIn, email, phone, any channel works. But for us, like, our approach is a bit different, because if you think about Outbound back in the days, it was very difficult to know who would be likely interested in your services or in whatever you sell, because you lacked the information. And now the way we work is we try to find out what kind of businesses, what kind of people are suffering the most with the problem we solve. And the way we do this is we usually ask clients to go very deep into who they serve and why they serve them. And I think that the best way to kind of have a good opinion of who you serve is to think about what people tell you when you have a sales calls with them. Because most people have an idea of their ICP. They will say, my ideal client is a digital marketing agency and they have 50 people and I'm supposed to be talking with the chief marketing officer. But then maybe something they would notice if they were looking and studying the patterns between people they talk with, is they would notice that every time they have a sales call with a potential client, the person actually had someone from their team leaving and they had started the role like recently. And because of these two elements combined, they have some trouble, which means that they have to act fast and they need some external help and they have no way to wait. Now, this is just an example, but the whole idea is this kind of data you can find. And so, for us, we want to get to bridge the gap between the information that the client has in their mind. Somehow I think they know who they are supposed to target, or like they know who their best clients are and what kind of information they can find. Because in most cases, the reason why companies or clients don't go after their perfect audience is because they don't know they can find their perfect audience. For example, like they don't know that they would be able to target companies where, say, 2 people from the marketing team left and where the VP of marketing actually just recently arrived, and where the company also announced a new product. Like, for example, these 4 criteria combined might actually be the perfect situation for companies to sell to. But because they think that they can only rely on ZoomInfo, Apollo database, which will just give them some information about size and industry, then they think that there's no way to find out this information. And so the message changes and the outreach is not as specific as it could be. And so like the way we work is we really just want to make them understand this part, and then we just try to pick their brain as much as possible to be able to understand what kind of data we need to find, and then go and find this data.
Yeah. And what would be a good use case? So where are you finding this data? And most importantly, like, how are you interpreting that into something which is actionable at scale? I'm guessing that might be the AI part.
Yeah. Obviously, AI plays a big role. But for example, if you think some tools let you find some great data, because one example, I think this is the most obvious example you'll see on LinkedIn, but say a company is hiring for a role, then there's something happening, right? I'm hiring at the moment for some SDRs. I want to expand my outbound efforts. Maybe some company has something great that can multiply by 2 my outbound results without me having to add some employee. Then I would be willing to listen, right? And so those signs can be found with just tech, with software. So this is also the reason why we are promoting a lot of different software. There are a lot of databases that let you find this information. And so this is one thing. But then when you think of this case, it's a pretty classical use case. You can think about companies growing fast, companies hiring, companies where someone left. But then if the use case is not that popular, it's difficult to find at scale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so to your question, this is where AI solves the issue. And so, for example, Clay, they have this feature, the Clay Gen. I think I heard you talked about it. We discussed that even back in the days. And the way it works is it works like an army of assistants that just let you find out any kind of information you are looking for. And so, for example, right now, something I'm doing is I have, say, 600 software on a list of AI sales tools, and I want to look at the lowest entry price for all these SaaS solutions. And so if I didn't have the ClayGen, I would need to ask my assistant to just go on each website, find out about the pricing page, what is the lowest plan, and then put it in some table, some Google sheet. And basically with the ClayGen, you can just give it the instructions, and then it tells you how it found the data, how confident it is about the validity of the data, and it gives it to you. And so if you extrapolate this logic to any problem you want to find, for example, is a company running some sustainability initiatives? Is a company expanding? Like, is a company mentioning culture on their homepage? Whatever question you have, then you can find this information with AI.
Yeah.
Which means that then, like, the biggest thing is knowing what's the information you are looking for.
Yeah.
Because there is a high chance you'll be able to find it.
Yeah. And are you leading it with your clients? You're saying like, okay, this is the problem that you seemingly keep coming up against, or this is the information that you're looking for. Are you also trying this? Like, are you leading that conversation, or do they typically come to you with those insights?
Usually the way it works is as soon as they sign a contract with us, we'll set up some onboarding kickoff strategy call. And the whole idea is, based on the replies of the form, we'll ask them a few more questions because we want to build the hypothesis for the campaigns. But the thing is, within this form, we're already asking some of these questions. We're asking you, like, have you seen some industry changes that might, that might say something about your clients? Like the clients you have, what did they come towards you for? What kind of triggers do you see? Like, we already make them think about all of these things, because what we want is, once we have the strategy call, we already want to have some ideas for what's possible, and then it really is some brainstorming session when they say some stuff, we say some stuff, and then at the end of it, hopefully, if they were able to provide a lot of information, then we have a lot of great campaigns we can run.
Yeah.
And so based on this, then we just decide what's going to be the targeting like, and then usually if you have a perfect targeting, or if you have a great targeting, the copy of the campaign just follows effortlessly, because the targeting almost becomes the copy. Like, I'm reaching out to you because I've seen 1, 2, and 3 criterias, and I know for a fact that if you have these 3 criterias happening to you, then you might have a problem with whatever I'm solving.
Yeah, and going into that part of things, the actual outreach to them, what are the tools and workflows that you're using in order to personalize that outreach, and do it in a way which is actually consistently good? Because so we obviously do some AI automation and stuff like that, and sometimes, and I think this has been mirrored by some of the conversations we've had with clients, they worry about the consistency of the quality of that the AI is able to personalize, because what you don't want to happen is that the AI is hallucinating and getting this information incorrect, and then sending a dodgy email. So how are you hedging against that?
Yeah, I think to your point, AI can get crazy if you just leave it too much freedom. Like, the best practice, I mean, actually the one we have found, is to not let it write a whole email or a whole sentence. Like, whatever the email needs, the AI needs to write about or needs to find for you, it needs to be a small snippet within the sentence. And so the way you do this is, say I'm personalizing an email and I'm sending it to you. And let's say that the reason why I'm sending this email to you is because I saw that you added someone new to the company. then the only thing I will let the AI write is, say, for example, the name of the person you added and how recently that was. So this will be a small snippet of personalization, but then the rest of the pitch stays consistent across all of our messages. Now, like the thing is, I like to use AI way more for qualification than for actual personalization.
Yeah.
But if you use it for personalization, then you can actually use either some formula or some AI to check the AI.
Yeah. That's what we do. Exactly.
That's what you do,
Yeah.
Because basically, like you have your list, say you have 1,000 prompts, or you have like 1,000 lines. You have the prompts that's applied to these 1,000 lines, and then what you see is saying 15% of the case, the AI didn't listen to you.
Yeah.
And so there are some stuff you can do where you tell it to always start a sentence with some specific words.
Yeah.
And you ask it to only write, say, like 8 words or something like this. And because you asked it, say, these 2 things, now you can build a formula where you are asking if it's true or false that the AI started the sentence with the prefix you asked, and if the sentence is not longer than, say, 10 words. And you know that if these 2 are not true, then the AI didn't listen to you. And so you can just use this as a condition where it's like, if those conditions are not true, I'm not sending the lead to the campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And the next question is around like the infrastructure. So I think what people will probably be thinking now is, okay, we've got the logic as to how like the campaigns should go in order to ensure campaign success. We now know how to actually personalize that outreach at scale. But if anyone's ever tried to send bulk emails ever, they always land in the spam. So how are you mitigating against that?
Yeah, I think this is the easiest thing to solve, but also the biggest problem you'll have. And I was talking about it, I think, in my video on the website, because if I know a company is landing in spam, then I know that I will be able to solve their issue in 2 weeks. And then like they'll trust me forever for that. And so basically like the whole thing is you cannot send, or you shouldn't send more than 100 emails per domain. And if you still want to do some volume, that means that you need to set up some secondary domains and some secondary mailboxes. So usually the way it works is you have navreo.ai, and so you would just build navreo.com or like get navreo.ai, whatever is similar to it. You would redirect all these new domains to your main domain, and then you would have for each of these 2 mailboxes. One could be Bjion at Navreo, and then like the other one could be Bjion.Henry, so that you have like 2 for each. And like what we do for each client is we have 20 mailboxes. The idea is with 20 mailboxes, we're able to send around 900 to 1,000 emails per day. And typically we have, if we have open rates below 60%, we know we have a problem. Typically we'll have like 70, 80%. If we are sending a campaign in French, it will be higher. It will be like more like 80, 90%.
And what I'm probably hearing from people, what they're probably thinking is like that sounds like a very long process to be creating all of those email boxes. So how are you automating that? Is that done by AI or?
No, actually we have someone from our team is taking care of this full time. So basically, because the whole process is they need to get 10 domains. They get the 10 domains, and once they purchase these 10 domains, then we have a few automations that create the 2 mailboxes. And then once we have those 2 mailboxes per 10 domains, we have 20 of these. And like this is usually done in a couple of days. And then what takes time is the actual warming process, because then you need to take those mailboxes, put them in your email sending engagement platform. We use Smart Lead. I think this is the one I would recommend to about anyone. And then for 14 days, if you have the luxury to wait for more, but like for 14 days, they will simulate the sending and receiving of message from your mailbox to all the mailboxes. And at the end, you have some mailbox ready to go.
And you've obviously done a lot of campaigns now. So what would you say are the pros and cons of cold outreach?
Yeah, I think like the big con is you need to have thick skin.
Yeah.
If you look at the replies, you'll see
they're not usually friendly, are they?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. What I see though is that when you personalize the message to the point where each person understand that there was an actual reason behind reaching out to them, then you get way less insults. And this is also why we like to do this whole hypothesis is if I'm telling you I'm reaching out to you because I saw X, Y, and Z, then it's like, this is my excuse for reaching out. And so sorry if I got it wrong, but at least I tried to build a hypothesis around why you would use you would need my solution. But I think like this is the biggest one, is the fact that you're reaching out cold, right? People are not expecting a message. And so when they receive it, if they had a bad day, maybe like you can, they will make you feel that they had a bad day.
Yeah.
Then like I would say the second thing is there is only so many messages you can send before just people being tired of receiving your messages. So now what I like about content is the fact that you can nurture people over a long period of time.
Massive fan of content.
Yeah, exactly. I know that. For sure. You're killing it on content. But like the whole idea is like you will not be doing a nurturing sequence with people who never ask in the first place to be in your contact list, right? And so if you need some fast feedback and you know who you're targeting, then Outbound is great. But other than that, I feel like it doesn't let you uncover who you should reach out to as much as content. Because the thing I like with content is you're pushing your content in front of a lot of people. And then, I think you mentioned that you had, say, 100 calls on the last trimester of...
quarter,
How many was it?
I think it was like 180 different calls throughout the whole of Q4.
So 180 calls, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking is when you have 180 calls, it's like 180 different businesses.
Yeah.
So 180 different people who have an idea of how they could leverage your service. And obviously, like, this means that you haven't been targeting, or like some people who talk to you, you would have never thought of targeting them if you were doing some outbound, right? Which means that you would never have been in front of them on the first place.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking is that sometimes then you have someone who just comes to you, you end up making a project for them. And because the niche was so not obvious, it's just killing it. They have no competition in the mailbox. And then now you know something that nobody else does. It's like, that you can kill it for this niche. And now then you can go do some outbound targeting these guys because you know you will crush it for them.
Yeah.
But you would have never known that if you hadn't done some, content. And so I would say like this would be probably like the biggest downside I see with outbound is that if you don't know who you are targeting, you will get very little insights into who you should target.
Yeah. Funny you say that because the way that we did it when we first started our agency is that like we were always getting leads for our content, but at the start it was very slow. So it wasn't predictable and it wasn't a way to actually grow the agency. So we actually started using Outbound to try and find our ICP. And we tested a lot of different niches. And I think that's what helped us to narrow down, okay, this is our target customer. However, you're right in the sense that it was like content which allowed us to actually find like edge cases where like actually led us into a wider array of target customers that we could actually reach out to. Funny enough, as in we recently signed a client who's in the event space, and they were telling us that for the most part, like these events, they're raking millions and millions and millions. But would you believe that like most of their marketing departments is just an intern because they can't like it doesn't make sense to hire a top level marketing person all year round. So it's a case where like they need an agency where they can kind of tap in, tap out, which is why they came to us. But going back to the cold outreach stuff, besides the amount of insults you're getting on replies, what are the other key metrics that you're measuring?
So I'd say like the most important one you want to measure is the contact to lead ratio.
Yeah.
As in how many people are you reaching out to get a positive reply? Because this is the best way to see which kind of segments or campaigns are performing. Mm-hmm. And so I did an analysis for a client, I think, a couple of days ago. And I think what I found out is that for every 105 people they were reaching out to, they will get one positive reply. But then as I was looking at the personas, I was looking at the job titles, I noticed that some very specific job titles were getting one positive reply for every 56 contacts, which is two times better, right? And so I think as you look at this is the easiest metric to just say, okay, like my this audience is performing way better, because if I know that I only need to be reaching out to 56 people to have a positive reply, if I want to have 100 people saying, hey, I'm interested in your services, then I just need to be basically reaching out to 5.6k people, right? So like this is one, it's the most important in my opinion. But then obviously like you want to monitor what's happening with your open rates. So like there is a big debate on LinkedIn about should you track, should you not track? If I'm sending a campaign for myself, I will not track it because I'm just looking at the reply rate. But what I found out is that with clients, they want to see it.
Yeah, they want to see,
They want to see it. And so you can explain to them, hey guys, the open rate is not the best metric to look at, but they will want to see it because if the company is not performing, they will be asking questions. And one of these questions will be like, maybe we are landing in spam. And so typically what we do is we will track the open rates for the first few campaigns, because then we get a baseline for what kind of reply rates we can expect. Then we turn it off. And typically when you turn it off, then you see that the number of replies you get actually increase, which means that you're able to see that you actually get more opens by not tracking the opens itself. So yeah, like this I would say would be like the two main metrics I'm looking at. Then because to me, for example, you could look at the reply rate, but at the end of the day, if everybody says no, it doesn't matter to you. So like I would say this contact to lead, and then maybe like you want to look at the number of emails you have to send. You know, something we saw, for example, is that if I look at my email sequences, I used to do 5-step sequence, and as I was analyzing the results, we just see that 80%, I think it was more like 86% of people who replied positively did it in the first 2 messages, which meant like those last 3 were just gathering 14% of positive replies. But obviously, as you are reaching out with these, you are capping the number of emails you can send. And so something we found out is that we are way better off sending way less emails, say like 2-step or 3-step email sequences, but reaching out to more people, because then we get more results.
Yeah. And what would you say is like the benchmarks for what you would say for what a successful campaign would look like after optimizations, and also like initially, what should you be expecting in terms of success?
Yeah, I would say that say you're tracking the open rates. If you want to think everything is going fine, you want to see at least 60% in opens. You know, because sometimes depending on your audience, you will see it will be a bit different. If you go for big companies, you'll have a way lower open rates than on average. If you go for, say, normal sized companies, you shouldn't see that. So this is the first thing. And then what you want to see is, say, like the number of replies, the percentage. Typically what we like to see is we like to see that we have, say, at least 10% in replies, whether they are negative or positive. And then the most important, once again, is, you know, like this metric. So I think if you're able to have one person or one contact every 100 leads that says it's interesting, it's a good start, because then you want to improve this metric, as since you will be, I'm guessing, targeting a lot of different personas, a lot of different seniority levels, a lot of different geography. You should be able to see within this first audience some segments all performing. And so, for example, if you manage to get, say, one positive reply every 50 people you contact, then it means you will probably be printing, because depending on how big your TAM is, it's pretty easy to load 5,000 contacts in a sequence. So if it's 1 out of 50, you have 100 people just raising their hands to work with you every month.
Yeah. And going back to the campaign strategy just briefly, what is your preference when it comes to the length of the actual emails themselves? Because what I would imagine people are thinking is, okay, so you're saying that a 2, 3 message sequence is optimal. How am I going to fit all the amazing things I want to say about my business in 2 emails if they're short? And we're all told by cold email gurus that you should keep it short. But it'd just be interesting to hear what your philosophy on it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say, like all the cold email gurus, that you want to keep it short. That said, I think what's most important is not the length of the email, is that as fast as possible, there is something that's just for them.
Okay.
And so what I'm saying is, I could send you a very long email, but say like the first sentences are very appealing to you, and then the second sentence is as well, and just continuing, and every time I'm saying something, it's always appealing to you, then probably you will want to read the whole thing. And so I feel like the length of the email doesn't matter that much if the whole email is actually personalized to you. That said, if you will be doing any kind of outbound at some scale, I'm guessing you will not be personalizing 6 paragraphs for each person that you reach out to. And so what we like to do is like, we do say 3 to 4 lines. Typically, we want to introduce, or we want to start with the problem itself, or like the observation that led us to reach out. And then once we have this, we come with a short pitch, and we like to end the email with some nice personalization element. I think if you have this, like the whole idea of this email is not for people to understand what the service does. It's just for them to understand that you can help them solve the problem they have. And so if you can communicate in very few words that you understand what's the problem they have, because you're seeing what's happening within the company, and you just mention or briefly tease the solution, then they'll want to talk with you. And obviously, like, the setting will be a 30 minutes or a couple of 30-minute conversations. And so you are just trying to sell the reply on this first email, not even the meeting. You're just trying to sell the reply. You want them to say, hey, it's interesting. Can you just send me more information? So that then they end up booking a meeting, and then you sell. And so, like, this is the misconception, is you have some tools, they have a lot of different features, and they are thinking, if I forget to talk about this feature, like, they will not see the full value of my product, and what will they think? And the issue is that you're just thinking about yourself, because you're thinking about selling yourself. You're not thinking about what's happening between the company. And so, for example, Apollo, I guess, is a good example. They have their database, but they also have a sales engagement platform. And so, say they were looking at people or companies currently hiring. Say they were looking at the job description. Maybe they'll see in the job description that one of the responsibility of the person that's going to be hired will be to build some data contact lists. And in this case, then, because they will have seen that, they don't need to be pitching their sales engagement platform, because it's very relevant for the company to be pitching the database itself. And then you can have the opposite, where it's like, they will in the job responsibilities, the person will have to be sending a lot of messages, and in this case, they will have to pitch this feature. So this is the thing: is if you start with the prospect, then you don't need to be pitching all the features, because you know which is the one they will be interested in.
Yeah. And so, if someone was watching this and wanted to get started on cold outreach today, obviously reaching out to you in your agency, of course, but if they wanted to first just test it out and do it themselves, what would be the steps that you would take as a beginner to kind of check it out and see if it's for them?
Yeah, I think what's great with cold email is that it's actually very easy to start with a very low budget. And so if you think about all the best tools out there, you can actually try all of them with a 14-day trial. I think that most of the tools I would suggest would have some free trial.
Yeah.
So, for example, you think about an outbound campaign as a whole, one thing you need is data. And so if you need data, the first thing you can do is you can use a database such as Apollo. Apollo has a free tier. And then if you want to get data from LinkedIn, you can get a 30 days free trial from LinkedIn Sales Nav. Then you can use Prospeo to enrich the email addresses. Prospeo, I think they let you enrich something like 50 email addresses for free. And then it's pretty cheap when you think of it. So if you want to just get more email addresses, You can just do it and go ahead and use Prospero. And then you have to think about the next steps, which will be that you will want to make some enrichments, some more advanced enrichments. And then for this, Clay is the most obvious one. But once again, they give you a 14-day free trial, which means that you can play around with the tool. And one of the things they do that's super cool is that if you go on the website, they have a massive list of tutorial videos. So if you just go and look at all these videos one by one, you'll be able to learn pretty quickly. And then when it comes to sending the messages, like either you can use SmartLead or you can use HeyReach. I would use SmartLead if I do email. I would use HeyReach if I do some LinkedIn automation. And once again, in both cases, they have a 14-day trial. I think maybe if you send a message to the team at HeyReach, they extend it to 30. I'm not sure. I hope. Don't take my word on this one.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll cut that bit out.
Yeah. but anyways, like the whole point though is you can get started with the tools pretty easily. And the thing with tools is that every SaaS owner or every person that built a tool has all the incentives to show you how to use their tool, because they know that if you manage to make some revenue or to generate some leads with their tool, you will keep using these. And so usually if you look at the documentation of these tools, or that if you just look at some people, I'd say on LinkedIn, a lot of people are sharing some great content, you'll be able to have a good idea of where to start. And so, yeah, and so I guess like this is where I would start. But I can also provide, if they send me a message, a list of people I would recommend following for great content around Outbound.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to wrap up here, and thank you so much for coming on. Dropped countless gems, and I'm sure people would be very, very grateful. If you could just finish up with telling people how they can follow you on various different social platforms, or even like check out your website, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so people can find me, find the website at coldiq.com, COLDIQ. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's just when I'm talking to French people, they just pronounce it ColdIQ, which makes no sense. And they can find me on LinkedIn, it's Michel Lieben, and this is where I'm the most active. Probably at some point it will make sense to expand to some other networks, but LinkedIn has been working well for us. Maybe not as well as for you guys, but like we are not complaining here.
Yeah, no, I love LinkedIn. As in 2-3 years ago, I hated LinkedIn. I hated it so much.
Yeah.
But I think it's changed a lot now. And like you, we're trying to stay focused on just one platform. If you were to move over to another platform, where do you think you'd go?
I think the first one will be YouTube for sure.
Same.
Because everybody says that, how with LinkedIn, you have all of these calls and people are actually happy to be talking with you. You've been putting all this content, they've been following you for 2 months, and you're like, I actually get to talk with the guy who's been putting out all this great content. That said, you're putting a lot of videos though, but that said, the LinkedIn content is usually written content. While with YouTube, people actually get to see you talk and they hear your voice. It's like if you get some YouTube fans, they actually like you, but like they are even more connected to you. And like what I've seen and what I've heard from people doing YouTube is they say that the leads they get from the platform are super qualified. Like some people that just say, I just saw what you did here, I just want to hire you for like exactly this thing. I don't need to have a long conversation. Just take my money.
Yeah. It's happened to us a few times on from a LinkedIn, and as you say, it's most of the time when they come in completely just ready to purchase because they've seen a video. Yeah, the video. So it definitely is a content type that we'd highly recommend. But as I say, thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Cool.